everyone, good morning. James Azar here with CyberHub Engage. If you can't tell, my voice has been shot. So if you're listening or watching us live on YouTube, my voice is a bit groggy today. I'll be resting it for the rest of the day until we bring you our Friday wrap-up segment later today that'll air tomorrow. So again, I apologize for my voice. It is an occupational hazard, as some would argue. Let's get in today's daily cyber briefing. It is Thursday, January 16th, 2020, and here are some of our headlines today. A sneaky phishing technique now being used in more attacks. ID-Ransomware uses spam to infect its victims. Baby's first data breach. Our babies have experienced their first data breach in a troubling story we'll talk about. And Oracle just released a whopping 334 security fixes in a critical patch update. And now for your daily cyber briefing, brought to you by our friends at Get Smart Eye Technologies. Make sure you go check them out online at Smart Eye Technologies and Get Smart Eye for their amazing software. It's still in beta. We got the launch coming just a little over 2 months away. So make sure you go join the beta and join the document security revolution with Get Smart Eye. And now let's get into today's stories. There's been a large rise in cybercriminals using a particular phishing technique to trick workers into unwittingly installing malware, transferring money, or handing over their login credentials. In conversation hijacking attacks, hackers infiltrate real business email threads by exploiting previously compromised credentials, perhaps purchased on a dark web forum, stolen, or accessed via brute force attacks, before inserting themselves into the conversation in the guise of one of the group. We reported on something really similar to this last year, if you recall, with an Israeli startup and a Chinese VC. So this is essentially now a further report, and let's get right into more details on this. The idea is that by using a real identity and by mimicking the language that a person uses, the phishing attack will be viewed as coming from a trusted colleague and is thus much more likely to be successful. Cyber criminals are leaning hard on this attack technique as a means of compromising businesses, according to a new research from Barracuda Networks. Analysis of 500,000 emails showed that conversation hijacking rose by over 400% between July and November of last year. That falls right into that man-in-the-middle attack we're reported on between that Israeli startup and the Chinese VC for $1 million BEC fraud. While conversation hijacking attacks are still relatively rare, the personal nature means they're difficult to detect, are effective, and potentially very costly to organizations that fall victim to these campaigns. For cyber criminals conducting conversation hijacking attacks, the effort involves a much greater than simply spamming out phishing emails in the hope that a target clicks, but a successful attack can be potentially highly rewarding. In most cases, the attackers won't directly use the compromised account to send the malicious phishing messages, but the user could notice that their outbox contains an email that they didn't send, which is why it's important to have good outbox hygiene in your email. However, what conversation hijackers do instead is attempt to impersonate domains, use techniques like typo squatting when a URL is the same as the target company, save for one or two slightly altered changes. But by using a real name and a real email thread, the attackers are hoping that the intended target won't notice the domain is slightly different, then that they'll follow the request that's coming from their supposed contact, perhaps a colleague, customer, partner, or vendor. In some cases, it's been known for conversation hijackers to communicate with their intended victims for weeks on end in order to ensure trust is built up and the attack is successful. At some point, the attacker will make their move, as most attackers do, getting the victim to either transfer money, pass over sensitive information, or potentially installing malware as a launching point for a high-value ransomware attack. However, while these attacks are far more sophisticated than regular phishing attacks, they're not really impossible to spot. Users can really pay attention to email addresses that they get. We always talk about cyber hygiene, but it's so crucial in these kinds of attacks, folks. Humans are the first, last, and only line of defense in cybersecurity. And so it only becomes logical that we pay attention to this. The other aspect of all of this is multi-factor authentication. And by adding this extra layers of attack, credentials being stolen are decreased, and thus this attack vector is also decreased with that as well. Let's move on to our next story. It's been discovered that networks targeting ACO ransomware is being distributed through malicious spam attachments that pretend to be a requested agreement. Last week, we spoke about the ACO ransomware here on CyberHub Engage and how it was targeting companies with the intent to encrypt their entire network. At the time, it was not known how it was being distributed, and when asked, the ransomware operator said it was a secret. Since then, the ransomware identification site ID-Ransomware has seen an increasing amount of victims. You will see some emails where there's a password-protected zip file named agreement.zip with the password 2020 being given in the email. The extracted archive contains an executable code file renamed as agreement.scr. When executed will install the ransomware. As spam is being used to spread the ACO ransomware, everyone must be trained on how to properly identify malicious email and not open any attachments. This is especially true for email attachments that are password-protected archives, as they're commonly used to avoid being detected by secure email gateways and antivirus software, and hackers do know this. Few things. There's a bunch of technology out there where it's really not that expensive. I know I've implemented it in a few businesses I work with that scans every single attachment, takes it apart, puts it back together. Those softwares do exist. It's a great little factor to help deal with this and a technological stop beyond the human element. Before we move on to our next story, I want to remind everyone listening or watching us live on YouTube today that we will be in Dallas for a live audience podcast recording on February 4th, with my great friends Mark Hopt and Patrick Benoit, CISOs at DataBank and the BISO at CBRE. You can register now at cyberhubengage.com. Tickets will go on sale tomorrow. I don't have a voice, so I can't sing that for you folks today, but it will be available tomorrow. So go pre-register now. Make sure you get that tickets. This will be limited size venue. I'm sure we'll be selling out. So pre-register now. Get your tickets and an early bird. And when you're a newsletter subscriber at CyberHub Engage, you get first crack at all of our live podcast studio audience ticket sales. And you also get them at a special rate because only our newsletter subscribers will be getting the discount codes. So make sure you go subscribe at the CyberHub Engage newsletter at cyberhubengage.com. We move on to a next story, one that as a father, as an uncle, has me extremely disturbed. We all know that video is one of what appears to be many images that we all take of our kids, of our babies. And so a mobile app by the name of Peekaboo Moments, which the app's developer is BitHouse Inc., has left their Elasticsearch database open on the internet. This is according to Dan Ehrlich, who runs Austin, Texas-based computer security consulting firm 12 Security. In a statement, Ehrlich says, "I've never seen a server so blatantly open. Everything about the server, the company's website, and the iOS Android app was both bizarrely done and grossly insecure." The Peekaboo Moments database contains more than 70 million log files comprising of more than 100 gigabytes, with information appearing to date from March 2019. The log records when someone uses the Peekaboo app and the specific action they took at a certain point in time, such as uploading data or content. Exposed data includes email addresses, detailed device data, and often links to photos and videos, all of which get stored on servers hosted by Singapore-based Alibaba Cloud. Ehrlich estimates that there are at least 800,000 email addresses in the exposed database. The app also transmits sensitive data for babies. It has a growth tracker that allows people to record their baby's length and weight. It also has a field for a baby's birthday. For some of the babies whose data is exposed, this is quite possibly their first ever data breach. Welcome to the new millennium. Another field shows that the app records location data in latitude and longitude to 4 decimal points, which is accurate to within 30 feet of an individual's location. The data exposure alert comes despite Peekaboo Moments describing itself as a secured space, and I say secured, promising to safeguard the data and information it stores. The app profile page says the following: "We completely understand how these moments are important to you. Data privacy and security come as our priority. Every baby's photo, audio, and videos or diaries will be stored in a secured space. Only families and friends can have access to baby's moments at your control. It's not clear how long Peekaboo's Elasticsearch server has been left unsecured or who all may have access to data. The company," and here comes the caveat, folks, "which appears to be based in China, hasn't responded to any emails, hasn't responded to any efforts for contact and to get some clarification." Micah Smith, who lives in Durham in the UK, said she was completely unaware of the data exposure, and she's been using the app for 7 years for 3 of her children. Troy Hunt, who founded Have I Been Pawned data breach notification service, says that for the most part, Peekaboo's exposure is a garden variety, one of the likes that are seen almost every single day. But the exposure of data on children sets it apart, as well as the unresponsiveness to a breach warning. Hunt said in a statement that here we have organizations trusted by a huge number of people to protect their precious memories, and they won't even respond to reports of a very serious data security incident. It's really alarming. Ehrlich also noticed other sensitive information exposed via the database that puts additional user data at risk. For example, Peekaboo Moments allows people to take content they've uploaded to Facebook and post it within their app. Ehrlich says that Peekaboo Moments API keys for Facebook are also exposed. Those keys could allow an attacker to get access to content on a Peekaboo Moments user's Facebook page. Before I proceed with our last story, I really want to kind of stick here for a moment and talk about this. I'm constantly reporting about Google Play apps. But one of the very important aspects of apps is apps are becoming an integral part of our online experience. We have to know who's developing the app, who are these companies. And we have to do some research because these app developers haven't earned our trust. They're giving us free stuff. And in a talk I gave earlier this week, a few days ago, one of the aspects of the nation of disinformation is the fact that we've sold our privacy for free. We haven't even sold it. We gave it away for free usage, and we're doing it again here. Folks, the real apps that really care about your security are going to charge you a few dollars. Not always, but predominantly. Trust the bigger companies. I know that sucks. I know that's not. We all want to support small business. But if you're unable to trust the app developer with your most precious data, if they don't take that seriously, it's going to have ramifications. The kind of data that's exposed here is a hazard because for pedophiles, they now have access to baby photos, intimate baby photos. They have data on the growth cycles of different babies within different geographical areas. The amount of data that's exposed in this breach is disturbing because it's minors, it's babies. It's supposed to be the most innocent and naive part of our population. It's our legacy. And so I always say at the end of every episode, stay cyber safe, folks. But I urge you and beg you to please, for those of you listening that are cybersecurity experts, when you get home, don't check out. Look at your wives, talk to your brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, aunts. Talk to them about what apps they're using. Ask them what data they're uploading, and just give them a little bit more cyber hygiene. To resolve our human challenge in cybersecurity requires community, and that community starts with us as practitioners. That's it for my rant on this specific story. Let's move to the next one. We're on the heels of the first patch Tuesday for 2020. Oracle has pushed out a dizzying 334 security patches for its first critical patch update of the year. Oracle January's 2020 CPU matches its largest CPU on record, which happened in July of 2018. In total, in January's 2020 CPU addresses flaws in 94 products. 2 bugs affecting Oracle Human Resources have a severity rating of 9.9 out of 10. However, the bugs cannot be exploited remotely without authentication. An additional 31 flaws have severity ratings of 9.8, affecting Oracle WebLogic Server, Oracle Communication Instant Messaging Server, Enterprise Manager Ops Center, Oracle Application Testing Suite, Hyperion Planning, and JD Edwards Enterprise One Orchestrator. Oracle is urging all customers to apply its critical patch updates immediately because of ongoing customer reports of successful attacks on system that have not been updated with the available patches. There are a dozen patches for Oracle database servers, of which 3 can be remotely exploited without authentication. However, the high severity rating for these set of bugs is 7.7. The update fixes 25 vulnerabilities in Oracle communication applications, including 23 that can be remotely exploited without authentication. The 23 patches for Oracle's e-business suite addresses 21 bugs that could be exploited by an attacker without requiring authentication. Across all products, there are 191 flaws that can be exploited remotely without authentication. Oracle Fusion middleware got a big security update with patches for 38 vulnerabilities, of which 30 could be remotely exploited without requiring credentials. Again, it's Oracle Fusion middleware. And Oracle Java SE also got a dozen fixes in this update. All of them address bugs that could be remotely exploited without user credentials. Oracle's next CPU is scheduled for the 14th of July, and then the final patch for 2020 is on the 20th of October. We'll be sure to bring those to you right when they get published. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for putting up with my very, very annoying voice today. I very much apologize. Tomorrow we'll have Dan Lacrosse back on the show with our Friday wrap-up. We'll be talking about all the news that have gone on this week, including the Microsoft NSA flaw and so much more. You can engage with us. Let us know what stories you want to hear more about by going to CyberHub Engage, going to our Twitter page, LinkedIn, Facebook, and just engaging directly with us. We do have an exclusive Facebook group as well for CyberHub Engage for executives, where you can join there as well. So lots of ways to engage with CyberHub Engage. Make sure you do so. Subscribe, give us 5 stars. Thanks so much for listening today. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is James Azar. Have a great rest of your Thursday and stay cyber safe.